Hey guys, it's Go here from Eamon14, and I'm here with you guys today with another sneak peek video. And this video is about the new dungeon that came out in SEA, and we can kind of see where it's going to be on the Eamon and EU servers. It's the empty spot below the flame keys, where the flame dungeon's at. You get your artifact enchantments. And it's also the locked spot to the left of your Age of Discovery season, kind of how you enter that content and where that panel is. You'll notice that kind of empty spot there in your inventory, we'll say. And that is where you're going to access your Cloud Dungeon, we'll call it for now. And also your flying pets that you get as a reward from the Cloud Dungeon. So when you join in, you have these various different areas that are shown here, and I will explain as I go, but essentially it works the same as like the Ruined City, right? Where there's different stages. You will play it with a partner, and you will go through those stages and access increasing rewards as you scale up. Here are some of the tips and overall rules for your partner and the characters and how it functions. If you've seen my sneak peek videos before, you know that I'll kind of just show this for a moment and then I'll move on. I usually do not read all the text and the tips and the rules just to save us both time. It's pretty easy to screenshot in the video. Share it with your friends, your family, and etc. So here's the second part of those. I will give you just a moment. Okay, continuing on. So these are the weekly rewards selection that you can get from doing the dungeon. It's a little bit different than, like how I mentioned before, the Ruined Ancient City, where you're doing the runs, you're getting your relic shards, and that's kind of about it, right? Well, on here, you can actually select your various rewards that you want, and you can, kind of change it up week to week if you want. Now, I would say the interesting things in here are like the crystal hearts, right? It's kind of hard to get these at this point in the game, although I don't really know if it would be worth it if you're kind of looking for a little piece of advice. I really think that the ring is pretty insignificant, and I don't think it would be worth to grab the crystal hearts for your ring upgrades from this event. But you have I think the most important things here is you'll see the yellow fruit. It's on the far left side of the row there, and it's selected. It has a 50 stack, right? And those are what's called your Yuk fruit in SCA, and that is used to upgrade your flying pets. So I would highly recommend getting those. And then you'll see the blue background egg and the yellow background egg. And I would definitely recommend getting those because with the flying pets, you are hatching these eggs for a chance of various rolls that I will get to towards the end of the video. But yeah, I would be kind of careful in what you choose, since you only have a certain number of weekly rewards that you can choose. And of course, that does mean that you're only getting these rewards ever so often. You're not going to be able to get them every day, like the Ruined Ancient City that I mentioned before. So this is kind of a little display of how your matchmaking and your partner system will work. And here are some of the rules for the flying pet and how it functions. So again, I will just give you a brief moment to spend your time with this. Perhaps you're freezing the video or taking your screenshot. Whichever way will not hurt me at all. And here is the second part of these rules here. Overall, it's got quite a bit to it. I'm going to try to explain it the best that I can. Right now, it's a very new event in SEA, and mostly even the spenders don't 100% have their, have everything established on their end. So I'm providing you today the basics and the potential rewards of the event and a little bit of how it functions. So this is how you do the pairing and the breeding. So you can have up to 10 people that you will be able to select their flying pets and your own flying pets, breed them together to get different eggs to access different pets. So it's actually pretty interesting. And these are the first set of the rules for this. And here is the second set here. Again, we won't take too much time on this. I think the biggest thing here is, you have 10 partners that you can choose. So I would highly recommend choosing people from your family, people that you coordinate with and play with every day, so that you guys can, optimize and help each other out to accessing the rare or what it seems like to be like the supreme flying pets. And here is this as well. So I think that this is kind of interesting here. Line 4, I know I said I wouldn't get into it too much, but at the end of line 4, it says the higher the quality of the pets used, the higher the probability of obtaining a higher quality flying pet. So if you have a close friend or someone in your family that is a whale, maybe they can access things quicker than you. This is a really great time to pair with them in this event and to kind of benefit off of that friendship or acquaintance. That way you can access your higher probability flying pets. Here is the second part of this rule panel. And this is the breeding page, and kind of very similar to, how would you say, like your parking wars, right? So, you go to your parking wars, you set your mounts, and you kind of just back out of it and go to other areas of the game, or maybe even perhaps log off when you're done. Well, there is a time that it takes to do the breeding, and so you will find your friends, pick the desired flying pets that you guys would like to use for your breeding, and then you will go on with other areas of your game. So, of course, it's an AFK game. It's not anything that's overly time intensive. You set it up with your partners and you move on with your game. And this is another part of that panel here. So the player here has selected their yellow flying pet. And then in the other side of the panel, on the right side of the heart in the center, they will pick their partner's flying pet. Then you will get an estimated breeding time, I assume based on the qualities of the pets that are entered. And see here, the breeding time, it's only 15 minutes, it looks like. So for the yellows, it doesn't really seem like it'll be too bad. I'm not sure the overall quality of the partner, pal, or pet that was considered here. But if it's only 15 minutes, that means you can breed quite a few pets in a day if you're one of those people that really like to rush your content. And this is the result of a breeding. So this is not an egg, of course, that was present in the weekly Cloud Dungeon rewards. This is an egg that can only be accessed from the breeding. So you will do your dungeons, you will get your various gold eggs, and then you will get your flying pets from hatching those eggs. Then you will find your partners. You will select your desired flying pets that you would like to breed with your partners. And this could be one of your potential rewards from said breeding. This is how you will hatch your eggs. So you will place them kind of here. And, you'll choose them. It'll throw them on that little cushion in the center. And as far as I know, it's like a tap, kind of like a tap-like function, right? You tap it and it'll hatch, right? And then you will get whatever pet RNGesus wants to give you. This is one of the rare, or really what I consider to be the supreme flying pets, mostly just because of the collar. I like to keep things kind of, how would you say, like coordinated. And so, yeah, it does say rare, but it's the same color scheme as, say, like your supreme mounts or your supreme gear. So I will refer to these pet passives and these pets in general as supreme pets or supreme pet passives, just to keep things, like I said, kind of organized and coordinated for ease of explanation and understanding. So yeah, this Anubis one looks pretty cool, honestly. I do really like this one. It seems like it has a very similar effect to like a back accessory or a mount or an artifact. So it's definitely very helpful. And these pet passives at the bottom, they are very, very substantial and very unique, actually. I will break a few down near the end of the video before I close this up. But there's kind of some interesting trade-offs and interesting stat boosts that come with this content. So this is another Supreme PAL. Definitely is similar to how your artifacts or your back accessories or your mounts function. And this one also looks very cool. And of course, this is just the base Supreme pet panel. And so it doesn't have all those passives at the bottom. Those passives at the bottom are probabilities. You have a chance of getting those passives. You can't get a flying pet that has 20 passive effects. And here I promised that I would get to this, and this is where it gets kind of interesting in terms of other stat boosts in the game. So you can see that this one here, yeah, it's 40% skill damage. There's not really anything unique about that. Well, you have a chance of rolling this, right? And then you also have a chance of rolling something like this. So you have a positive value stat with the plus 40%, and then you have a negative value stat. So you can potentially roll something on your flying pet that you definitely do not want. Like if you're playing a mage, you definitely do not want to get negative 80% skill damage. So there's some layers to the RNG of this content that is quite undesirable, honestly. I do think that the content is still going to be very fun. I think it's going to be very interesting and interactive between friends and families and communities. But I do want to make you aware that there seems to be more trade-offs in how the stat boosts work in this content. Here is another example. So, yes, you can get the plus 15% to your flying pet HP. However, your character will lose 5% of its defense when getting this buff and when using this flying pet. So, again, there's that trade-off mechanic, right? Where you're getting a stat boost here with maybe one buff, but another buff, you may getting a actual negative stat advantage. So, very unique, I think, to this flying pet and cloud dungeon content. Definitely something to understand before it comes out, when it comes out. And here's another example of trade-off stats. So yes, you will gain 7.5% global combo, but you will lose 2.5% global counter. So I imagine that the way this will function is that, kind of like with your class swaps, you have your different prayer sets. You have your different ways of doing your souls. You have your different artifact enchants or hearts. Well, here it's kind of going to be the same thing, right? Maybe you have a flying pet that you like to use on your archer. But when you switch to your warrior, you don't want 2.5% global counter decrease, right? So you will want various flying pets for your various class swaps. And as in right here, so we saw the skill damage increase, the skill damage decrease. Well, here, this is just a flat out negative stat boost for your flying pet's attack, which is definitely something that you don't want to get. But I definitely wanted to highlight this to you guys, that there are some interesting RNG hits in this content, some things that perhaps that you wouldn't want to get, some that are good for other classes and specifically for different class swaps. This one here, I can't really say it has any value at all, right? Like if you were to get a good stat boost roll, a good passive on the first roll, but you get this on the second roll, that very well could tank the value of that flying pet. And I definitely want to make you aware of this ahead of time and give you the chance to understand this, especially when the content is here, so that you can make the best decisions for your character and for your flying pet. And so guys, that's all that I have for you today. I hope that you really enjoy this content. I know that I'm very excited for this content to come to the game. I think it's pretty interesting. There's some very good looking choices for the flying pet in terms of cosmetics. And there is a lot of very desirable stat boosts. I think it's going to be very similar to how the artifact enchants work, where we'll call it here like a layer cake RNG. You know, you want your hatchlings to do well, you want your breeding to do well, and then you want your flying pet passives to also be good and to be good for your specific or individual class changes. So very similar in those regards to the artifact enchants. But I do think that the dungeon is a pretty separate form of content than what we've received from the previous example, the Ruin Ancient City, and from like the Flame Keys, for example, which we kind of just pushed to 20 and now we sweep. This is one where, you know, you will try to push as high as you can with your partners, and you'll have a lot of reasons to, again, engage with your friends, your family, and your other acquaintances on your servers. So guys, again, I hope that you enjoy, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.